Hello again, let's talk about sketch number 8 now. This is a fun one and it is a really great one for using up some of your scraps if you want to do that. So what you have here are two photos, a 4x6 and a 3x4, and then there are layers behind the photos, and the layers kind of go from longest to shortest in the back. And there's a large title at the top with some sort of embellishment behind it. And then the journaling rests right there above the photos. Now I find when I have two differently sized photos or two different orientations that the space between them, since they're not the same height, is a great place to put a title or journaling. So that works out really well. For this particular sketch, I am using 3 photos, and I'm using 2 3x4 photos that are horizontal. And so those will stack up on each other, and then one that's the 3x4 vertical. So it equals out to be the same as a 4x6 and a 3x4 here. But of course you can switch this around to be anything you want. If you had one photo, you could do all your journaling right here or put some sort of embellishment here. I know Tanya switched it so that it's this way, so that the banner is on the side, which is fun. I think you could also turn it this way. I don't often do banners pointing up, but I don't think it looks bad, so I think you could definitely try it. Or you could just make this into a different shape. You could just square it off, or I think something like this turned this way would be good for some sort of city vibe kind of layout, so keep that in mind. And I may, like if I were going to do it this way, I may move the photo down and put the journaling here, but I think the title at the bottom is still great. So anyway, you can play around with that. I can't wait to see what you guys create and put and share in the Facebook group. But excuse me, before I move on to the layout, I wanted to just make a quick note about my scraps. So I am going to mix some scraps for this layout. This is a great way to use them up, and I wanted to just tell you kind of how I choose my scraps and what I am going to do. So first of all, I have loved this paper for so long. I've had it in my scraps for a very long time. It's square because I cut it out of the middle when I used the paper as a border on another layout. And I just love the colors. I love the pattern. It's Maggie Holmes, which makes my heart happy. And even though the photos have a lot of florals in them, the colors match, and I'm not going to put the florals right next to the photos, so that will work. So I'm gonna use this in my layers. And so this is where I started, was with this gorgeous paper, and because it has so many colors, that's where I grabbed more different papers from. So sometimes it's hard if you're used to working within a certain collection or a kit. Sometimes it can be hard to mix patterns, and so here is what I suggest. First of all, I went through all of my scraps and I just kind of leafed through. I didn't look at every single thing, but I kind of pulled out the things that I knew matched this after I found this paper, and then I pulled out the things that felt kind of schoolish to me. So first of all, I pulled out some of these little tabbed, these are actually Felicity Jane tabbed dividers that are meant to be, you can punch holes in them and stick them in your planner, but I just like them for layers, and I like the idea of using a file folder for one of the layers on the layout, and so that is something that I'm considering. And I pulled the blue because I knew that the blue kind of matched to this, or the black and white polka dots could match anything really. Now this paper has kind of a vintagey vibe, so there are other papers that I pulled because of that reason. Some of the papers that I pulled are because they're schoolish, and so if they had like a grid or a text print, I pulled those, and these all, most of them are crepe paper and kind of match this. Now that, not so much, I might pull that out. This one I pulled because I like the alphabet on the side, but I'm going to exclude it because it has orange, so I don't have orange in these papers. I pulled this one because it had that blue color, but looking at it now, I just really don't like the way it looks with it. I do like the back of it, but I'm not sure, I'm not sold on that. So at this point I'm thinking I need something yellow because there's a lot of yellow in the paper, and I felt like I wanted to bring that out. So I pulled another vintagey yellow. I'm also looking for a mix of large patterns and small patterns, some that are pretty solid, especially because my photos are going to rest on part of it. I want one of the bigger pieces to be more solid because I want my photos to be able to stand out against it. And if I put my photos on something really busy, like I showed you on the background before, on the floral background, they just don't pop out. Even if I put a white border around them, they'll pop a little bit more, but I want something a little bit more plain for the photos to rest on top of. So I was also thinking about that. So those are some of the papers. Now I pulled a bunch of different yellow patterns because I wanted to include some yellow and I wasn't sure what would work best. Now this is really more of an orangey yellow, but I like the scale of this pattern, so I pulled it anyway, so we'll see what works. And then this one I just pulled because I like this is the beginning of Anything You Want, and this kind of looks like a book spine. So I'm either pulling based on color or based on like weight of the pattern, or because it fits the theme of my layout. So I also really like this and the softness it brings, and this might be a really good base layer for me to rest my photos on top of. You can see that they pop really nicely against it. And so anyway, that's where I'm starting. I want to just give you a quick little vision of how I am using my scraps, and I talk a lot more about like mixing patterns and choosing from your scraps in my Zap Your Scraps class. If you're familiar with that, you can go and review that lesson, or you can check it out in my shop. But I love using my scraps, so this is a great way to use them up. Let's go ahead and put it together. So I'm starting by putting my photos on, I'm giving them a little white border. So I'm just using some cardstock, and it's just going to be a very thin, it's like probably a 1/16 of an inch even. Border, just so they have a little something to help them stand out if they happen to land on some of the other patterns. And so I'm just using my We Are Memory Keepers guillotine trimmer to trim those up. I love that trimmer for photos especially, but I use it a lot. And here is the paper that I had chosen for my photos to rest on top of. And I know that I want it to be a little bit more narrow because I'm going to put some photos on some other patterns behind it, and I want those to show. And so I'm just going to cut this down so it's about, I think it's about 6 inches wide. And then you just saw me fold that in half so I could find the center, and I just cut a slit up the center, and I'm cutting from the bottom corners to the center to make my little banner shape. And then that floral piece fits under it nicely. So here you can see that white border helps them pop off that floral paper. And now I'm going to see if I want to place the paper that has the tab at the top behind it. I really liked that paper because it felt very schoolish to me, but I won't end up using it. So I like this yellow paper because it matches really well with that floral paper, and it has a little bit of a distressed look like that floral paper does too. And so I'm thinking about that. I love the text print. I always love a text print. And then I also loved this scrap of sassafras paper that I had. So at this point, I'm just kind of playing around with the layers, trying to see. I'm disregarding the sketch slightly because I want to see what papers I can play with. And so I'm thinking of just putting a piece of that paper across the middle, even though that's not what the sketch shows, but I'm okay with it. At least I think I am. And then here you can see I'm kind of going back to the way the sketch looks. And in the end, it does look a lot like the sketch. I think I have an extra pattern in there, but it works out well. So that pattern I love, that has the pink with the darker pink dots, but it's not long enough. I want it to be much longer. So I'm going to play around with and worry about that for a while. And so I end up finding a different paper that's similar, and I just don't love it as much. I probably could have just used it. I should have, but I didn't because I really had my heart set on the paper I wanted. And sometimes I get that way where I just have to have it a certain way. So I'm going to play around with it a lot. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I just put it behind the yellow paper because in the sketch, the patterns do kind of step up. And so it goes from longest to shortest. So there you can see it stepping up. But I really like the yellow on the outside for some reason. And so looking at it now, it looks fine. But I just, for some reason, really wanted the yellow on the outside layer. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down on the outside pieces. And you can see a lot of these patterns I've just cut apart because you don't need a full sheet. You don't need a full piece to make it fit. You just need, I mean, you're not going to see the center, so you don't need a whole bunch of paper. So what I decided to do with that pattern paper is to just piece it together. And so I am going to cut the paper up so that I can just make it a little bit longer the way that I want to. So first I'll put the outside edges on, and I'm using my grid mat to help me line things up. So you can see that it's kind of at the 1.5 inch mark, or 1.5 inches in from the sides, a little bit more, but, and then I am just going to glue these little pieces underneath. They don't line up exactly, but it's fine. I'll end up covering them anyway, so it's not a big deal. So that floral paper that I love so much, I don't even have to use the whole sheet of that. I'm going to cut that in half too, because you're only going to see a little bit of it. And you know, this is a paper I would love to put on show, but I've been able to use little bits and pieces of it on a bunch of layouts, and I just love it. So I think it's okay. So I'm just centering that now. I really like the way this is starting to look. You do see that seam on the pink paper, which I will cover up soon. So I thought about using the tab here, but it just, the polka dots didn't pop enough against that floral, so I decided against it. And at this point I'm thinking, okay, I got to cover those up. I can't handle it anymore. So I'm cutting up that text print, and I'm just kind of making a little piece that goes across the center. And that is pretty much what I do to fix that. And I like the way that ends up looking. I love a good text print, and especially on a school page, I think it works really well. So I have a bunch of embellishments and things from the Studio Calicos. They had a company called 7 Paper for a while that had a bunch of school stuff. And so I pulled all of that out. But before I get going on my embellishment, I decide I need to put my title down. So I'm using these thickers from American Crafts, and these are an older thicker, but I absolutely love this font. I wish they would bring it back. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but I can't. Anyway, they just fit together so nicely, and that's a light, like seafoam color, which I absolutely love. And so I want the title to be 6th grade graduation, because that's what this is. And I was thinking that I would use these Paige Evans pink paisley word thickers that are a variety of colors, because they really match the colors in the floral paper for my words, 6th and grade, but they don't nestle the way I want them to. And so eventually I will end up changing my mind about those. At least I believe I do. And so there you can see I've kind of got it resting there up above my photo. And now I'm going to go through these embellishments and see what I can find that will work for this layout. And I'm just pulling out a few things that kind of catch my eye. I like the pencils, I like the star, the arrow. I thought would be cute to put the journaling on, so I'll go back to that in a minute. I also have these stickers that say different words on them that have to do with school. And I found one that said teacher, and I thought it would be cute to do like teacher, friends, I don't know, but they just didn't end up working out. So I'm going to use these gold stickers, and they are really cute. They're just white stickers with gold foil, and that one says you measure up. And so I was thinking I could put that above my title. I'm going to play around with it a bit, but I just stick it on the wax paper so that I can figure it out when I'm ready. And so here's where you can see that I am putting that, instead of just writing the journaling on the background like it shows on the sketch, I'm going to put it on that little arrow. And I like the way that looks and how it points to my daughter. I thought about also adding in that text paper, but I don't like the way that it's the same color as the arrow. It's the exact same color, and I just feel like it's just not quite right. So I pull it off, and it's okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw some white lines onto this arrow, and I'm trying to find the pen that I want to use. I think I want to use a thinner pen for this, and I'm just using my ruler, and I'm going to draw the lines from, not quite from edge to edge. I'm leaving some space around it. And then I will end up journaling on top of that. But just doing my lines like every, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. I don't know what I did. So I wrote my journaling with black ink on the white lines, and then I'm using some white stickers from Allie Edwards. They have like a little bit of a rounded top. They're perfect for photo captions, and I thought in the years to come I'm going to forget who these people are. I didn't even know her friends' names in this photo. I mean, I remembered a couple of them, but So I had to have her tell me a few things. And I also had her tell me some things that she loved about 6th grade. And I wrote those in the journaling. And so I just captioned each photo. And then on the photo of her, I think I stamped the date on that one. Because I feel like if 3 of them, or if 2 of them have captions, probably all 3 of them should. So I'll decide that here in a few minutes. I want to pop up the journaling. So I'm just using some fun foam and backing the arrow with it, and then I'll just adhere that down. I'm struggling with my adhesive a little bit, but that's okay. And there we go. So it's pointing right to her face, and then I'm going to put this little sticker underneath. Oh no, I put it above. It says noted. And then I'm going to cut out this pencil and I really love it, but I can't figure out a good place to put it. And so I'll play around with it for a bit, but it eventually goes away. So instead of the words that I had before for 6th grade, I found these old letter stickers from Basil, or their word stickers, and I just used that because they had stickers that said 6th and grade. And then I also found one that said teacher and friends, and then outstanding and graduation, and so I'm going to use all of those on here. So I put graduation below my daughter's photo, and now I'm doing the date so that it has the label sticker with it too. So all 3 of those photos have the same thing going on there. And now I'm going to play around with that dang pencil. I kind of like it at the top there. I really like the star, but when I cut it off, it is not my favorite. I end up just leaving it on there, but I don't know. Looking back at it now, it looks kind of weird. But it ends up staying, and that's okay too. So I'm thinking I need some more gold going on in some other places. I'm trying to figure out where I can put that You Measure Up sticker, and I think I don't end up using it because where I wanted to put it, I had to tuck it, and then you didn't know it was a ruler, so it kind of, the pun was lost, and that made me sad. I used the word teamwork next to her and her friends, and they're kind of like a little team, I guess, right? And now I'm putting on that star, and I'm just kind of nestling it next to the word graduation. So the line of the star lines up with 6th grade, and then the edge of it is on the G of graduation. So I like to make things go like that whenever I can because it makes it feel like it was part of the title to begin with. So at this point, I'm almost done, but I'm just looking through a few more things to see what I can find. There was a pencil in these Project Life stickers, but it wasn't the right color. And there were also some tabs. I really liked this Let's Go globe, and I felt like I needed some more of that darker aqua color. And so that helps to bring it over to the other side of the layout, which I love. And I'm still thinking about, I need that pencil or I need something yellow. I don't know. I needed something. I found a little paper clip, which was adorable. And I'm going to just put it above noted. There was one that had like 2 paper clips on it, but I couldn't figure out where it rested right. It looked weird to me, so I just used the one gold one, and I think that's cute. That's enough. And there's a little tab, which is cute, but I don't think I use it. And I am going to go to these cute little puffy stickers. So I don't know about you, but I have a hard time with the little animal puffy stickers. They are the cutest thing in my life. I love them so much, but they are a little bit tricky to use. And so I figure with like elementary school or kids, sometimes you can get away with more things. So I put one little puffy sticker in each cluster. So I'm going to use a bunny, a fox, and not a panda, a cat. So you'll see that here. They're kind of placed right now, but I'll move things around a little bit. So I'm going to put this pencil, I fussy cut that pencil out of another one of those little 4x4 cards or 3x3, and I'm going to put it next to the arrow, and it fills up that space a little bit nicely, and I like that. And then I'm going to move my cat around a little bit, and it will move again. Don't worry. I have a tendency to move things because I like things just so. I'm a little bit picky sometimes. So now I've decided to add in some flowers because I love flowers, and there's florals in the background, and so I want to add another flower. And I am using these little Maggie Holmes stickers, and they have separate leaves, and so I'm just adding a flower with some leaves into each cluster. So there's one above the globe, and there's one next to the word graduation, and there's going to be one over here by the pencil, and right now I'm putting it on the pencil, but I'm trying to figure out a good place to put it, and I think kind of nestled in that corner of the arrow is a good spot, so I will end up putting it there. Now I just don't know where to put that cat, and so that's going to be a little bit of a struggle for me, but it will come back. Don't you worry. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what color do I need right here? Do I need the bright pink? Do I need a light pink? Do I need a different color? I was just trying to make sure I had all the colors in all the places. I decided to put that outstanding sticker in the other space next to the arrow. So that little right angle right there is a great place to put something. And then also the pencil kind of gives it that boundary on the right hand side. And I'm trying to think if there's one more sticker I want to stick with it. So I end up putting it and nestling the little cat next to it. So that's where the puffy sticker will end up. And I'm just going to ruffle the edges of my pieces. And I also wanted to use some staples. So I'm going to staple the papers on the sides. And I stapled the star on the top. And I'm going to put a staple on either side of each one of these little labels that I stuck underneath the photos. Now the one of her friends' names, there wasn't space for it, so I just wrote it a little bit smaller on another label, and because I wanted some uniformity, and so I wanted to make sure that I had the space to staple on it, and so I just redid it because I could, and it only took a second. So I'm using gold staples in my gold stapler, and then I'm also going to outline the different pieces. Because I've got the black lines going on in my journaling, I just felt like I needed a little something. And when I use a lot of layers, something that I kind of do sometimes to help unify them is to outline them. So I'm just going around each one with one thin black line. You could also stitch on them. Sometimes I get too lazy to do stitching, but yeah, adding that black line really does a lot. And then just a little bit of Heidi Swapp Color Shine, and that is going to complete this one. I really love the colors and the way that this one turned out, and I can't wait to see what you make with this one. It was really, really fun. Here are some close-up photos coming up, and of course you can see these in the classroom as well. And be sure to check out the other video for this sketch in there too. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in sketch number 9.